r/AskReddit. People who worked in restaurants. What was the worst customer that you had to deal with? Worked in a popular restaurant for a while. We usually have quite a long wait, 30-40 minutes waits during dinner service, and people are told by the hosts about this. There was this lady that got fed up with the wait after 10 minutes. She stormed into the restaurant, stood next to a table of 4 people and literally asked them, "Are you guys done? We've been waiting for a long time now and would like to have the table if you guys are just chatting." Was completely mind blown how people are able to not give a duck and pull something like this in public. I have been seated at a 4-seat table when eating alone, and when there is a huge wait I often invite the people waiting to eat with me. Not like paying for them or anything, just sit and eat, so they don't have a half-hour wait. I once had an Olive Garden pasta pass and everyone at my table would get free sodas, and I would offer people to sit with me to save time and get free drinks. No one ever took me up on it. Sucks to be ugly. A customer ordered one of our daily specials and didn't like it, so instead of complaining to me about the food and letting me offer something else, she complained to my manager about me. This was May of last year. In August of last year, turns out she was one of my college professors for the semester, teaching a management course. She recognized me the first day, but I played it off like I didn't know her. Edit, she did not complain about me to my manager in front of me. I left to go work an event in a different building, and she left a sticky note for me after talking to my boss. I don't know what the sticky note said, since I didn't bother to read it. I had a similar experience. I served a couple once, and we got along really well, no complaints about anything. I ran the guy's card and it declined. I told my manager, and when he went to talk to them, they told him that I was a horrible server and treated them like shit. They left me a penny. I get customers like that too. I'll try every way I can to not have their card decline, whether it's reswiping or manually putting everything in. I get one regular customer and her card always declines, so I put it in manually and she only leaves me 15 cents because I take too long processing the bill. Barista here. Had a guy that regularly came in and ordered a complicated drink. He always finished the order by asking for a finger swirl in the drink. If you gave him a confused look, he would say, "Well, how else am I gonna taste you?" He was the worst. Oh god, I had a similar dude when I was in college. Said to me to stick my finger into the beer bottle so he could taste something sweet, mayo. I'm constantly surprised at the gross creativity possessed by people dead set on sexual harassment. I used to work in a bar that sold very old booze. A drunk man tried to impress his friends by chugging from a bottle of Mero from the early 60s. He had to pay for the whole thing since his lips touched it and it was useless. Cost him around $800. Honestly, I wouldn't let anything a guest has touched be served to someone else. It may be okay, but there are a lot of reasons people aren't allowed to serve themselves that he should pay for it regardless and not come back. Our bar was having a private party. A drunk dude walks in and orders a drink. I knew he wasn't with the party based on his attire and that he came in every so often. I told him I couldn't get him a drink. He lost his mind. Told me to duck off and then wanted to fight me. On his way out he yelled that we should put up signs as he walked by the signs on the door saying we were closed for a private event. He came in the next day sober and apologized. Hey, at least he apologized. I wonder if he saw the sign on his way out and couldn't stop thinking about how much of a douche he sounded, lol. Well, being drunk makes you senseless. Way back in the 80s I worked in a restaurant that was a favorite of a celebrity chef of those days, Jeff Smith, the frugal gourmet. Never seen a bigger shat than that guy. Literally make our servers cry. Nothing was ever right. He was beyond rude and condescending, yet he kept coming back. He had a reputation of being a jerk off camera. Eventually he was disgraced by being outed as a child predator and was quickly forgotten by all. Our restaurant was a good place. Another celebrity chef of the time, Graham Kerr, the galloping gourmet, was always a pleasure to have visit. In his day, Graham Kerr had the energy level of Gordon Ramsay, the health consciousness of Paula Deen, and the gleeful euphoria of a man well acquainted with ecstasy. He was fun to watch. After a wedding reception ended at our facility we were cleaning, and I began the cleaning process on our espresso machine. The party was over almost a half hour already. The process takes 12 minutes. People were still there as the party slowly let out, and the father of the bride asks me for an espresso. I told him I could get it to him, as we have a strict policy of always trying to satisfy our guests' needs, but the machine was cleaning, and it would be done in about 10 minutes. He begins ranting about how much he paid for the wedding, and stormed to our banquets manager, and told them I refused to make it for him. Manager is a douchebag and starts ripping me in front of the guy. I show both of them that the machine is just finishing the cleaning process, and it was impossible to make it beforehand. I got suspended for 2 weeks. This one guy who basically hated his order so much that he waved me over and told me to put my hand out and proceeded to spit out entirely what was in his mouth into my hand, then tell me to refund him and then make him something else. If you didn't immediately grind that food into his face and dump the plate on him, you're a better person than me. Edit. I'd like to point out that I was too shocked to really retaliate to what he did at that moment. I don't like confrontation, so I walked away to the bathroom and cleaned my hands for what felt like hours. My coworker saw what happened and told my boss, who kicked him out, and he was no longer allowed back. I waited tables for a few years in college, and the worst table that I ever had was a Catholic priest and some guy he was trying to hit up for donations. The whole meal he was very condescending and demanding. After everything was done, I left the check at the table. He ended up walking out stiffing me, not just on the tip, but on the entire check. He even stole the leather check holder thing. I reported this to my manager. A couple weeks later, this same guy comes in with about 20 members of his congregation. My manager told him he wasn't welcome in our restaurant after walking out on his previous tab in front of his whole party. They all ended up leaving to go elsewhere. Best manager I've ever had. Guess he never heard of the commandment thou shalt not dine and dash. A homeless guy who came in, actively dripping of blood from his hands, and started screaming at me and threatening me because I wouldn't give him a bakery case item without paying. He was dripping blood all over the counter and spitting everywhere until I threatened to call the cops. A huge group of clearly rich kids who came in, stole a bunch of drinks, and left the dining room trashed. Also one day, some guy *DEMANDED* I take money from our tip jar to help him pay for his order, and argued with me when I said no. That first guy was a huge biohazard, and I absolutely would have called the cops and made my manager deal with him. My friend works at restaurant. A vlogger was shooting a video, and since it was allowed within the place, nobody troubled her. Apparently she wanted one of those gone sexual clickbait thumbnails, so she asked my friend to place his face in her breast while she squirted ketchup on herself. My friend refused as he was in a relationship, but some other employee agreed to do so. After they shot the thumbnail, she marched in the next day claiming sexual assault. I don't know what happened after that, but it did not turn out good for the liar. Wait, how the duck does one get their face caught in your breast while shooting ketchup on themself? You gotta watch this video to find out. It won't be in it, but you don't know that. Bartending in a restaurant a few years ago. There was a private party, and one of the guests asked me to plug in his iPhone to listen to a song. No big deal. I did it, and he tipped me $20. He left his phone behind the bar and got wasted. When he was leaving I said, "Sir, don't forget about your phone." He threw a beer on me and told me to leave him the duck alone and told me get a real job. Guess who got to keep a nice new iPhone? We had someone do a runner once, and they left their phone. Reasonably expensive one, although this was over 10 years ago, so I can't remember if they were as much as they are now. He sheepishly came back the next day asking if one had been handed in. Our boss said no, and kept the phone. I worked in Domino's. I had a guy throw a handful of pennies at me while laughing. The 30 odd cents was my tip. He was mad when I turned around and walked away without picking any of them up. His exact words were, "Oh, my money not good enough for you? Fine, I'll never order Domino's again." I've never had a customer fire themselves like that before. It was great. I love when the "I'll never come back" threat comes out. Like you think my salary is at all affected by you coming in. Please never come back. It's one less person to yell at me. This old guy who asked if I was included in the order. I'm 17. This happened to me when I was about that age. Some guy asked if I was on the dessert menu. I pretended so hard not to understand him that he actually got embarrassed, left a generous tip, and politely left without another word. This is actually the best way to handle someone being inappropriate. Make them explain their shittiness. Works with casual racism, sexism, etc. I don't get it. Can you explain the joke? The all-powerful sentence. I had a guy that was a germaphobe and had really bad OCD. He came through before, and my coworker didn't want to deal with him. So I went to the drive-thru window after washing my hands. I cashed out the order that was on screen and he reluctantly handed over his card. I gave him the coffee that I cashed him out for. He started yelling at me saying that it was wrong. Apparently the person that took the order forgot to type it in. Unfortunate, but it happens. He started yelling at the coworker that didn't want to take his order at the window. So instead of just saying that it was the wrong order, getting refunded and being on his way, he stayed in the driveway for 20 minutes telling my coworker that she was stupid and unprofessional and was unfit to be a supervisor. He kept demanding that we get the phone number of our franchise owner, but apparently the number was wrong, and he kept yelling at us. But when we came back to the window after 20 minutes of this, he left. My supervisor went into the back to cry. I felt so bad for her. She's the sweet person. Fast forward less than a month later, he called the store to apologize, and the manager made sure that my coworker never dealt with him again, but he could come in as long as he didn't make a scene. He told the manager that his therapist told him he should apologize. He spent a combined total of 3 hours on the phone with the manager, where he apologized and also blamed us for making him late to his appointment that day. And at the end of the phone call, he asked if we were hiring. Used to be a bartender at this hybrid restaurant / bar / movie theater. On big movie releases, the bar would get absolutely slammed, and on this particular night we had run out of glassware completely. People were allowed to take their drinks into the theater with them. The only glassware I had at the time were regular pint glasses that you would normally serve water in. We only served beer in them in a pinch. This guy and his wife / GF got lucky and caught a seat at the bar, and he ordered a Jack Daniel's neat. Having no other glassware, I put it in a pint glass and explained that we were running low on rocks glasses, assuming he would understand, since it was absolute chaos everywhere you looked. He took it and said, "I'm not very happy," in a smarmy way, and gave this shitty little grin. I apologized again and said, "Unfortunately we are not making any more glasses back here," and him and his wife acted like I reached across the bar and slapped him. I just got my manager and told him to deal with them. He told them the same thing I had told them regarding the lack of glassware and gave them a free drink, which they seemed happy with. I would felt bad if there was something else I could have done for them, but there wasn't, so duck that guy. He said, "I'm not very happy," and smiled. He wanted a free drink, which he got. Fast food near a high school. The absolute worst were the moms. Had one who came in weekly and screamed about wrong orders or whatever complaint she could dream up so she could get free food for her entire family. Then you get the loser douches who think harassing employees is funny. The absolute worst customer was the owner of the franchise. He'd walk in, test employees and then fire someone for some issue, so minor it was likely just made up. I worked at a Vietnamese restaurant back in high school, and I had a Viet family come in to eat. They gave me snobby vibe the entire time, especially after I told them I couldn't speak Vietnamese. They ordered regular pho, but asked for no cilantro, so I rang the order in with no cilantro. It came out with cilantro in it, and I told the kitchen what the family asked. The kitchen told me they couldn't do anything about it, so I told my manager, and they told me to ask the family if they still wanted it. Family said yes, so I brought it out, and they took out the cilantro and ate the entire thing. At the end of the meal they spoke to the owner and complained how I got their order completely wrong, got the food for free, and got their bill taken out of my pay. The owner told me I should remove the cilantro myself. Shitty management, shitty customer. That's illegal, you know they can't do that. Duck that place, I hope it closes for good.